Hi everybody, thanks for coming out. Thanks to the Wellness Project for putting this on. I can assure you this is a very needed topic and an important topic, and I'm glad that we're addressing it. I have especially you of the social media generation. Every time I've learned something about what's bad about society, I've concluded that social media is involved somehow. So that roommates won't talk to each other, but they'll tweet about each other or things. So anyway, that's not going to be my point. But I think what I would like to share in my few minutes to start things off is, to me, resolving conflict is not so much a skill set as it is a mindset. I have learned that two factors contribute to the intensity of a conflict, or I should say the entrenchment of a conflict. To what extent there's respect between the parties, and to what extent there is insecurity among one or both of the parties. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But to illustrate it, many years ago when I was dean at another school, I had a student come to me with a roommate conflict, which is a classic conflict. And so during that, and she came in to say, my roommate's just horrible to me. She always opens the window when she knows I hate it. She comes home late at night, is noisy. All the typical things that your roommate does to annoy you. And she said, and this school was lucky, just had 2 freshmen to a room. But anyway, so she said, I know she's just trying to chase me out so that she can get the room to herself. And I really don't want her to win. I want her to be able to, I don't feel like she should get her way. And so I said, well, here's what I think. I think you should go ahead, if you're not happy where you're at and it's frustrating, we can move you just down the hall, get you settled in a few hours, it'll all be behind you. I wouldn't worry about the winning or losing thing. I said, but however, I have a suggestion for you. I bet when you tell your roommate you're moving out, she will beg you to stay. And the woman said, you're crazy, Dean Price. This whole woman's goal is to get me out of the room. And I said, you might be right. But I'm just saying, I think it's possible. And so she emailed me later that day and said, I don't know why you knew that, but she did. She said, I'll stop opening the window. I'll be nicer when I come home. I won't be so noisy. And started doing all these things, which showed she knew exactly what she was doing to frustrate a roommate, but was now pledging not to do them if she would just stay. Because what the roommate, the one who came to see me, thought the conflict was about her chasing me out. But it wasn't about that. The roommate felt inferior and in some sense kind of insecure about this relationship because the student came in, had lots of friends and things, and she was doing this as a way to, if I drag you down and make you and annoy you and make you blow up and things, then I feel like we're more equal. But right now I feel inferior to you, so I'm going to then kind of exert my power over you as a way of somehow expressing that insecurity or trying to avoid that insecurity. So I do think then knowing that, to resolve conflict is to focus on respect. And as I said, it's a mindset. There's a tenet in our profession in student affairs that says each person, or each student, but each person has dignity and worth. It doesn't say each person who does what they should, or each person that follows the rules, or each person who is nice to me deserves dignity and respect, but everyone deserves dignity and respect. And it's a lot easier to give it to people who are nice to you. So it's really, I think, a real judgment, a real test of character when you're able to exhibit that dignity and respect for people who aren't necessarily extending it to you. However, I think when you do extend it, you find out that those people's behavior towards you improves dramatically. I try to do this when I meet with students, because although luckily enough I've moved up the ladder long enough now, I have other people, some in this audience, who have the responsibility for meeting with students who have conduct situations and things, but I still do occasionally. I have to meet with students who have been involved with something that is unpleasant and are going to suffer consequences. But when I bring them in and they're all anxious and nervous, I ask them how their classes are going, I ask them how things are with their roommate, ask them about all kinds of things, because What I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to drag it out so the suspense is killing them. No, I'm trying to do that because I'm trying to set a tone early on that they matter to me more as a person than the behavior that has brought them there today. That even though they have done something they shouldn't, and we're going to have to address that, and it may be unpleasant, the fact that they were involved in that behavior doesn't change the fact that I care about them as a student. I want them to be well. I want them to be successful academically. And things like that. I once had a student arrested, and then they spent the night in jail, and I went down the next morning and picked him up at jail and brought him back so he can get to class on time. So again, he had to understand that he crossed a line that justified getting arrested, but I also wanted to make sure he got to class on time once he was released. So, and that my relationship with that student changed after that because the student then trusted that I had an interest in him as a person beyond just the behavior. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Dead Man Walking. I think it was a new movie, but it was the 90s, so it can't be that new for you. But it's a true story about his sister Helen Prejean, who is a nun who ministers death row inmates. And she was talking to the family of a woman who had been raped and murdered by this inmate. And the family was furious with the nun for ministering to him. And she says, "But we believe that people are better than their worst act." And I think that's a good thing to remember, that someone's behavior is not always the best representative of who they are. They can be better than that. And so trying to then diminish a situation from being me versus you, I'm the good person, you're the bad person, and more to we're both people deserving of respect who are having a disagreement, and if we preserve that respect and focused on the problem, we can resolve it.